she, her, hers. And we are going to be having our panel with Kari, Brandt, and with Dani. So just so we can get things kind of started, if you could just write in the chat, maybe your name, your pronouns, and either like you could put your major or the reason why that you decided to come to today's event, just so we can get some conversation started, and then we'll go ahead and start with the panel questions. Okay, so we have Jacob. He identifies as he, him, his. He is staff in the Santo Manual Student Union and excited for our collaboration, which I am too. Thank you, Jacob, for being here. Awesome. We have Mark, he, him, his. Films are awesome and want to hear from Kari and Dani. I do as well. I'm really excited. Jessie, she, her, hers, liberal studies students. Awesome. Super happy to have everybody here. I just added mine in the chat as well. We have Joelle, she, her, hers, on-campus climbing wall supervisor, which is awesome, and super stoked, studies environmental studies. Cool, nice. We have a lot of good turnout here, good amount of diversity here, which is awesome. Let's give everyone a couple more seconds and then we'll go ahead and start. Feel free to add. If not, that's totally okay. Yes, I agree too, Dani. De Monte is he, him, his, computer systems with game development major, a minor in theater arts with an acting emphasis, 7th year student hoping to graduate the semester. Yeah, cool. Or the spring semester, nice. Yes, yes. Okay, so we'll give it till 7:05. Okay, oh, perfect. I said it and then it changed the time. Perfect. So again, thank you so much everybody for being here. So our panel will be going from 7 to 8 p.m. And then after we will be having the trivia on the No Man's Land film and do some giveaway prizes then. And I will go ahead and put the that link at the end of our panel. So there is a total of 7 questions, and then there is one individualized to each person. So one for Kari and then one for Dani. And we'll go through the first 7 all together, and you know, we'll kind of go from there. I'm hoping maybe we can have this as a way we can kind of just have kind of like an open discussion, right? So so I'm really eager and excited to learn more about everybody. So with that being said, Kari and Dani, are you ready for your first question? Yes, okay, awesome. Yay, all right, let's do this. So the first question is to please introduce yourselves. Tell us what you do, how you got into the field, and what was the last place you went to in the outdoors that blew your mind? Whoever would like to go first. And I could always repeat the question again.
I'll go first. I unmuted myself first. Hi, I am Dani Reyes-Acosta. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm coming to you from Southwest Colorado, which is ancestral Pueblo and Ute land. Even though I was born in California, my family does have roots in Colorado, and I've really just found over the years that this place just keeps calling me back. So I do come back to California every year except for this year because of COVID. So maybe next year, but let's see, what do? So I don't really define myself just by my work, which is such a privileged statement to say. I am a marketing consultant, a writer, an athlete, and an educator. So I have the great privilege of being able to do events like this every once in a while and share a little bit of my experience. Sometimes I talk about adventure, sometimes I talk about marketing and branding, and sometimes I talk about both of them. But I do get to split up my time doing all of these things because I'm now, as a consultant, over 10 years into my work experience, where I built a portfolio working with big companies like Nike, consulting for other big companies like Vail Resorts, and then working for many, many small companies. But just kind of on that grind, and now the grind looks a little bit different. I'm not in an office. I've been working remotely even before COVID, and being able to integrate part of the work that I do to, my mission is really to connect the next generation to themselves in nature. And so that work doesn't just look like marketing, it looks like I said, writing and representing different types of, different identity of who's in the outdoors. So like this, I like to go do things like ski down, stuff like that. Not that one yet, but yeah, I love play, and I'm super excited to find some new community here with my SoCal peeps, because I'm also a Southern Californian. Kari, I'll kick it over to you. Did I answer all the questions then? Sorry, really quick.
Yes, that was great. Thank you so much for answering. The last part was, what was the last place you went to in the outdoors that really blew your mind?
Okay, sorry, Kari, I'm gonna grab that mic back. Let's see, so the last place that really blew my mind. So last winter, so in the last several years, I have been kind of, because I've traveled a lot and have been able to work remotely and just make it work. I spent the last winter in the Tetons. So I started out in Jackson Hole, which is on the eastern side of the Tetons, specifically centered around Grand Teton National Park. And the western side is on Idaho, so it straddles the two states borders. But my goal was to really push my my skill level and skill set and grow some community in the ski mountaineering world. And Grand Teton National Park is just like crazy. And I don't mean just because I saw buffalo or elk, which I actually didn't see buffalo, but I did see lots of elk, and the skiing is insane and the place is beautiful. And, you know, more than anything, the people that are there that are caring for the land are really, really wonderful people. So I highly recommend it. Right, Kari?
Wow, yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, that's super, super awesome. Thank you for sharing about what you do and your entire lifestyle. Like, you know, sounds amazing. Kari, would you like to go ahead and share as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently for work, I am the ski patrol director and safety coordinator at a ski resort called Diamond Peak, which is in North Lake Tahoe. My journey to get there wasn't necessarily a straight path. Like DeMonte, I spent 7 years at Cal State San Bernardino, got a few degrees there, and had the privilege of working with CSUSB Adventure back when it was CSUSB Outdoors with Mark. I think I'm still the longest student employee of the rec center. I was there for 6 years, so we'll see. I don't know if anyone's beat me yet. But the skills I learned there is the reason I was able to progress really quickly in my career as a ski patroller. I started when I was in my master's program at CSUSB, and then presented with a lot of really unique opportunities. So I was actually promoted to ski patrol director at Snow Valley in my 3rd season as ski patrol. And I learned a lot in a really short period of time to be able to do that. And then I became the risk manager at Sky Park at Santa's Village. So I was able to help them develop their programs to open the park. And then I'm starting my 2nd season up here at Diamond Peak, which if you have never looked up Diamond Peak, we have the best views of any ski resort in Tahoe. It's the most beautiful place ever. and a really awesome work environment. And I think I have the best job in the world. The last place I went into the outdoors that blew my mind is in my new backyard. It was the Desolation Wilderness. I had never been into the Desolation Wilderness. It's in South Lake Tahoe. And I got into doing quite a few ultra marathons this summer, and there was one route in the Desolation that summits the 7 highest peaks. So it's 24 miles, and so as I'm reading Mike's thing, I got distracted. Oh, that's my best friend, Mike from Truckee. Hi, Mike. I was able, it's 24 miles with 10,000 feet of vertical, and probably less than 10 miles of it is on trail. And so I feel super fortunate and was just blown away that my first experience in the Desolation Wilderness was like bagging 7 peaks in a little over 10 hours. And yeah, it just blew my mind. I had a smile on my face almost the entire time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I noticed that when you and Dani were both explaining your experiences, I could see that light that was coming in your face, right? Like of that experience, we're kind of like reminiscing that. So that's like really awesome to see. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And it's great that we have an alumna here as well to kind of explain like kind of the experiences that you've had, and how you've created those networks and those connections, when you were out at Cal State San Bernardino, and that has brought you to where you're at today. So yeah, thank you for sharing that piece too. So we'll go ahead and move on with the second question. The second question is, how has your role in the outdoors shaped your concept on femininity?
Are we doing the same routine?
Yeah, this is for yeah. That could work. Yeah.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Whoever's ready first.
Yeah, I think this is a question that sometimes I feel like I think too much about, and sometimes I think not enough about. But I think what it kind of all comes back to is this idea of like, what does the outdoors do for you? In like sometimes in the last month or two, someone had asked me the question like, why do you go outdoors? And that is, I think, intrinsically tied up with this question of like, who am I and what is the concept of femininity? And to me, the outdoors is just a place to be, right? And maybe that means a place to be strong, or a place to heal, or a place to just build connection and friendships, or a place to really grow and charge and try and do something really cool and fun and exciting or spicy. But I think to me, femininity is not uniquely tied to any one objective or way to be in the outdoors. I think femininity is intrinsically tied up in energy. And when we look at the archetypes of masculine and feminine, I want to separate those energies from what gender norms tell us, right? Because gender norms, especially for anyone that's traveled, has seen how, or outside the United States, can maybe have an understanding of how in the United States or in any given country, our society tells us like how you should be as a man or a woman or a non-binary person. And traditionally, the going into the outdoors from the Eurocentric objective-driven perspective has been a narrative of achievement, right? Like, I have to go do this thing, and if I don't, I'm failing. And there's this whole kind of concept that I don't think is necessarily wrong, but I think it has been very heavily informed by can I talk about by I'm not going to ask by the legacy of colonialism, right? And what happens when our societies are built on conquering. And so to me, going back to the question, you know, thinking about femininity is in the outdoors is a way to lean into whatever energy I need to have in that moment. It is not necessarily an energy of achievement or of conquering. It can be an energy of creativity or of, like I said, a healing or happiness and simplicity, or maybe it's just like, let me figure this shit out and let's go do something really cool. So yeah, I think the outdoors has just given me this really wonderful gift of giving me pause. And if I think about what is the highest form of femininity, it is a space where I can allow myself to be just whoever I am in that moment and not driven by external pressures to do something that may or may not be right. And
Yeah, that's an amazing, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm almost to the place where I can just stop apologizing and just be like, yeah, I'm bringing up colonialism.
Yeah, no, yeah, I was gonna say that is like an amazing kind of analogy, at least in my head, that you had given, that when you go out to nature, it's kind of something in which it's like self-connection, right? And like self-healing, and just it's your thrive, right? Like what you're saying, you know, you go out and you're coming back with like all these downloads of like, oh, like how you said, I gotta go heal, or I have to go connect, or I just gotta figure something out, right? Like, and this is just like that outlet, like that plug, you know, that we're so like destined to find in our lives, right? So that is an amazing answer. Thank you so much for that answer. Kari, did you want to go ahead and give your input as well?
Yeah, it's super, this is the second time Dani and I have, you know, kind of facilitated and been on a panel together. And so it's funny how we kind of have reached a similar conclusion through different experiences. So like my experience was always trying to be one of the boys and being tough and wearing baggy clothes and like kind of resisting being feminine because I thought it made me look weak in the outdoors and in the communities I surrounded myself with. And then as I started to meet like more women in the outdoors, and I had the privilege of working and living in Yosemite with Erica, who's on this. And in that community and space was the first time I felt like people just wanted me to be genuinely me and accepted me for that. And I realized that showing femininity has nothing to do with your toughness or your strength or your competency or just ability to exist outside. And, you know, for some women that means like dressing up and putting on makeup and doing their hair before they go into the wilderness. And that's just as great as the girl who feels more comfortable in baggy clothes and, you know, with non-feminine colors. Like there's it shouldn't dictate your level of femininity. Your femininity should be like where you're at. Like some days I want to wear a dress and some days I want to wear my Carhartts, and both days I'm equally as strong and equally as powerful. And it took me a while to realize that that's okay, and it doesn't mean anything against my competency in the outdoors.
Can I add on to that really quick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think
definitely
like, to build on what Kari was saying, like no matter how you show up any given day, you know, to me, I think the days that I'm expressing like the strongest version of my feminine self are the days where I'm speaking my truth of like what I'm feeling and how I'm doing and what I need, right? Or what my goals are, right? The days that I'm not shying away from like sharing my opinion or shying away from taking the lead, right? Because oftentimes I think that's something we're afraid to do as women or non-binary folk is like step into the space of just being like, this is what I think should happen. And I think there's something really, really powerful about just saying like, here's the solution, and I think we can go after it this way. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are great points. I really like how both of you had touched on kind of creating like this own outline of what you define femininity, right? Like, and you just connecting in your own way and not fitting into like this narrow box or like these discourses or domains that we are like stigmatized to believe, you know, and just connecting to who you really are and how you're presenting yourselves out into the world. So thank you both for sharing to that question. So we'll move on to the next question. And it kind of does go a little bit about, you know, those discourses and domains and ideas, you know, and norms that we had set. The next question is, do you feel like women struggle with self-promotion more than our male counterparts when negotiating salary or within the scope of your work? And how do we combat this?
Think about this daily. This is such a loaded question. So there's a climber writer named Georgie Abel who'd written a really interesting article a couple years ago. It's on Medium, and her name is Georgie Abel, Georgieabel, if you want to look it up. And she talks about, she's a climber, and she's talking specifically about how women are like really put down for being like what is called in the climbing community like spray lords or spray queens, and how men like don't suffer the same, or maybe not to the same degree, but same kind of fate of being put down as self-promoting, or you know, someone that's blowing out or overly sorry, I'm trying not to be too colloquial, someone that's just like totally telling everyone in the world about what they're doing on the daily and self-promoting. And you know, when that article came out, I remember sharing it with some of the men like in my climbing community and ski community, and people like they were very dismissive of it. And I remember just thinking like how fundamentally like wrong I thought that was, because I don't think that we should be told like why it doesn't make sense that like if this guy's doing it that this girl can't do it. And then I also heard things like, well, he's climbing, you know, 5'15", 5'14", or 5'13", and she's just climbing a 5'11". Like, who cares? Like that doesn't make someone better or worse. And if her story is just as good, why shouldn't she be able to share her story? And it just all these like silly little things that were nitpicking, and it became really frustrating to me. And so I think as a person that does write and does consider myself a creator, not an influencer, so calling that. Thank you for giggling, Kari. But like, you know, I think there's like obviously some, you know, some kind and unkind things we can say about influencers, right? And the way that we kind of like use our platforms to hopefully create some positive impacts, or totally turn a blind eye. But you know, ultimately, I think if I'm going back to the question, like, yeah, absolutely, we struggle with it. And the simple answer is that I think women have been socialized to fit into a traditional gender stereotype that, you know, tells us to keep our mouth shut and put our heads down and accept, you know, for Latinas, 77 cents on the dollar of a white man. So I'm done with that. And, you know, the way that I combat this is, you know, I've always worked twice as hard or 4 times as hard to get half as much, and I will continue to do that. But, you know, the quality of my work, I think, hopefully speaks for itself, and just try to be a good person and connect as much as possible. And I think what ends up happening is that, you know, people see you, people that want to support good work and good intention, lift you up. And if you're in a position of power, the way we combat it is we hold the door open for others. And we just, you know, as when you're struggling and you're trying, just don't stop. You just keep going, because you're going to fail 15 times before you win once.
Yeah, thank you for adding on. I really like the point that you were talking about of how we have to open the door for others when we're working just as hard, because I noticed when you said that, you know, that you work twice as hard and it doesn't go unnoticed, right? Like, you know, when we do work hard, people will notice. So I really liked how you said when that point, because it's like when people do notice, we're giving them that opportunity to open that door, right? And to see shifts and see perspectives and things in that manner. So, you know, I appreciate the way you answered that question. Kari, this question goes to you now.
Yeah. Yeah, short answer, absolutely. It's difficult, and like Dani said, like women are just kind of trained to accept it and not challenge it. At Diamond Peak, I'm super fortunate. This is the first place I've worked since leaving CSUSB Rec Sports and Yosemite that I've actually gotten paid equal to my male coworkers. And at one of my last few jobs, I even went up to our HR manager and told him I needed a raise because I was significantly underpaid for my qualifications and what I was doing. And literally our HR manager looked at me and said, "Your partner has a good job and you guys don't have any kids, so you're doing just fine." Which you wouldn't think that in 2017 that stuff would happen anymore, but it's still out there. And I share that because a lot of like my friends who know me are shocked that that actually still happens. And so I think one thing to combat it is like transparency of salaries. If companies have transparency in their pay structure and have it be objective, then that helps, because then like the men and the women know if the wages are being fair. And then Dani touched on this also of like women supporting other women, especially, I mean, we're such a big freelance like kind of culture now, and Dani does a lot of freelancing. Essentially, she has to price herself. And I think when doing business with other women, we need to make sure that the women we're working with aren't discounting themselves. I'm starting a nonprofit organization and I'm working with a local graphic designer, and she wanted to give me a discount because she believes in what I'm doing, which I greatly appreciate, but I stood up and I'm like, no, I know I'm not supposed to negotiate you higher from what you're giving me the bid, but don't discount the value of your work. And so like when we work with other women or other communities who are underpaid, if we can stand up for that and be like, no, don't discount yourselves, then it gives them more confidence the next time they go to somebody else of like, no, this is what I'm worth.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a really great point too, is supporting one another when we're trying to support ourselves. And, you know, that point that you brought up of that story, and giving her that perspective of, you know, thank you for supporting me, but, you know, we have to support each other at the end of the day. You know, that's an amazing factor in that aspect. I see Dani also had put in the comments that, or in the chat, that even talking about this more in her social circles as well, it helps us gauge where we are on the spectrum of pay, as well as pressure or inform employees / clients to get us to where we need to be. And yeah, that is a good point as well. I guess, yeah, just talking about it, you know, just advocating for ourselves, just, you know, what we were just talking about is advocating for ourselves and supporting one another is really how we're going to get, I guess, our point across and what we deserve, even though we all deserve, you know, more than what we're getting, right? So I'll go ahead and move on to the next question. And the next question is, what is your superpower?
I really didn't want to do this one first because I'm not really sure.
I'll go first, Dani. That's fine. So it's interesting. I actually am in this leadership program for women in leadership in the outdoors. It's called Peak Leadership. And part of the exercise is figuring out what your essentially like magic formula and superpower is as a worker. And so this is the statement I came out of the class with. So Dani, I have a head start. That's why. And so in the workplace, I'd say my energy is contagious, which inspires others to work hard and achieve their best. In life, my superpower is the ability to embrace the suck. When it gets real hard, I tend to thrive in that. So that's definitely my superpower in life.
Nice, nice. I like to, when I hear you say that, I like to think of it as going hand in hand, because when you mention, you know, you give that energy off and to work harder, but, you know, like you're able to get yourself out of these situations. Like it makes me think that like you're giving yourself that energy to, you know, push yourself to move forward. You know what I mean? That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a superpower.
In my interview questions, for my employees, one of the ones I ask is, who's the person who inspires you the most and why? And in the back of my head, I always think that like, well, in my life, that person is me. Like I'm the one who is the most influential and inspiring person in my life, because I'm just like, think of these things and push myself to do it. And yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. Supporting yourself, one another, right? Yeah. That is amazing. Dani, what about you? What is your superpower?
Well, if I'm linking it from what, or just building upon what Kari had said, you know, first, Kari, I think this is one of the reasons why we get along so well. It's just, you know, the energy component and just like kind of just constantly being in this space where you're like, I believe in the good. I believe that something is going to happen here and it's going to be okay. And embracing that suck, even if it's absolutely sucks. You know, I was just looking up, I'll drop the link in the chat here, my Myers-Briggs personality, which is an ENFJ. So I'm an optimist, I'm a protagonist. I'm ultimately, I took another strengths test for a new organization I just joined, and I'm also a strategist. And so like, you know, ultimately I for better or for worse, I really believe that, like Kari says, that everything's going to work out. And, you know, it's the people that I bring into my life and that surround me that are going to help me build a community or see the best in who I am. Because like, we are not just people unto ourselves living on these little islands. We are part of a bigger community, and I want to be able to be the average of the 5 people that surround me, because those people are going to inform the decisions that I make and the actions that I take, and ultimately like how, you know, I end up seeing myself in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I really do believe in the good, and I do believe in people. And you know, on the flip side, like, what is my biggest, like, you didn't ask for it, but my biggest weakness is sometimes like not being able to discern, like sometimes where, or in the past, I'm getting better at it, but when situations or people aren't like maybe the right for me, and that that's an intuition thing, and that's why we go into the mountains to work on developing that.
Yeah, honestly, Dani, just sounds like you're a human being. You know, like a genuine, like amazing human being, right? Like that's just what it sums up to be, right? Like, and that's amazing. You know, I definitely feel that both of the traits that both of you described, like, is definitely superpowers. Like, you know, just being human, being yourselves, and living your best life, you know, from what it sounds like, right? And just keep going with the flow. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask one more question, and then I will gear it to the question for individualized for both of you, and then we'll turn it to our amazing audience to see if they have any questions for you two. So the last question for both of you is, what do you want to see more of moving into 2021 with within the realm of women in outdoor adventure sports? I know that might be hard because we have the pandemic going on, but hey, like this is the way we're living now, so we have to have some sort of like outscope on it, right?
Yeah, I hope a lot of things for 2021. But in terms of keeping it to women in outdoor adventure sports, the biggest thing I think that has created a lot of movement and needs to continue is women supporting women. The more we build each other up, the more we work together, the stronger we are. And if women supporting women is this freight train, like no one can stop that. We're so powerful together, and like women's only spaces are super powerful, but when you have that experience and then go out into the normal world, then you're just more confident and you have more ability to inspire. And so yeah, that's like the biggest thing that I want to continue to see, because we're raised a lot of times of just that competition and that you have to prove that you're the best, and we can realize we're the best together, and we're I'm the best version of Kari that I can be, and Dani's the best version of Dani that she can be, and then we come together and we can have this really powerful formula together, and embracing that.
Oh yeah, and it's been amazing. I mean, in the 2 years that I've known you, right? Like through an email introduction, through friends of friends, like just, you know, I try to amplify you as much as possible and vice versa. And like the world is our oyster. And, you know, I like, it's so powerful to see it in action. And, you know, I think like what's interesting and I hadn't really thought about until a year and a half ago or something, was really just like the women not helping women, or men not helping women, or like that is a very like something that's been around for a long time. And you know, fortunately and unfortunately, I'm sure all of us have worked with people of the same gender that are trying to kind of like not help us succeed. And for the longest time, right, like you know, having one woman in charge was like, it was like, okay, cool, we have our one woman, check, like affirmative action check. And that was a thing that was like through the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Like when women entered the workplace after World War II, they were like fighting and scrapping to stay in the workplace. They didn't want to be sent back to the kitchen and to having babies. And you know, there were a lot of people that didn't really like that. And so, you know, I'm not going to do a whole history lesson, but there are, for whatever reason, still quite a few people that don't support this idea. But if anyone has heard of this idea of like collective liberation, like the only way that we're all going to help the world be a better place is if we all lift each other up. So to your point, like, heck yes, Kari. And to, again, add on to that, like what I really want to see is not just women supporting women, but women really, really owning their story. And whatever that story is, if that story is, I want to be, like, if that story is, I have this degree, or I don't have a degree and I want to do this job, or I want to be a mom, or I want to be a community builder, or I want to go be a professional athlete, or I want to be a business owner, right? Like, women stepping into spaces that feel scary is, I think, like something that the outdoors has definitely given me, right? Because I figure if I could go walk up a mountain, like what else can I do? Like, whoa, that's crazy. Who walks up mountains, right? Like if you can walk up a mountain and embrace that for 8 hours, you could sit down at a computer and make an Excel spreadsheet. You you know, and Google will tell you what steps you need to do to launch a business or whatever the goal is. But, you know, my hope is just that in 2021 that we continue to support each other, and that we really learn to embrace who we are, and that we're not afraid to talk about it, and that we own our stories.
Yeah, that was amazing. I love to hear, like, that's amazing. Like combining both of those, like, yes, supporting each other, and just coming into like this community where we can advocate for ourselves, and yeah, just be real, like, right? Like just be real within ourselves, to be honest about how far we've came in life, where we come from, because we all have different stories, right? So I definitely agree that is a great point. And it made me think about like the term community. Like that's one of my favorite words personally, because it has like unity in there, right? So it's like I always try to like toss that around, like, okay, like we're a community, you know what I mean? Like we're in this together. So it made me think about that when both of y'all were talking about you know, supporting each other and just being there for each other, and helping like yourselves inside, and then being able to project that outwards, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. That was really great. So now we're gonna go more into the individualized questions, and then we'll turn it over to our audience. So the first question, well, the only question for Kari is, what is the best advice you have ever received?
So I picked this question because the person who gave me the best advice I've ever received is in this group. It actually came from Mark. Yeah.
Aww.
I know.
That's great.
He's writing it down. So we were on this Yosemite trip, winter trip, and we were snowshoeing out to Dewey Point, and I saw a snowshoe guide who worked in the park. And I was like, wow, that'd be really cool to work here. And he turned to me and he's like, so apply. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that's what it takes. So a lot of times when I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool, I hear Mark's voice in the back of my head, whether it's like, so apply or so do it. And, you know, it kind of has changed into my own mantra of like, you won't know if you don't try. And so a lot of times when things seem scary or big, it's like, you won't know if you don't try. And sometimes all it takes is to throw in an application, and here you are. So thank you, Mark.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh, I kind of want to know what Mark's thoughts are on that. Like, you know, that we have someone here. Oh yeah, thumbs up. Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kari. And, you know, that's a really good point too. You know, sometimes the people who inspire us the most or give us advice are like the people who don't even realize it. Like it's so subliminal, you know? So, you know, that's awesome. Okay, so Dani, your question is, what are the most valuable concepts and ideals gained through adventure sports, and how have you been able to apply them to these to real life?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So I do this like an exercise every 6 to 9 months, and it's like a journaling exercise where you kind of sit down and write out my goals and what I'm trying to do with my work and just things that matter to me. And so I sat down and wrote down my values, and I realized that my 3 values are directly tied to things I've learned in the outdoors, but they are totally linked to the work that I'm trying to do. And it was just like this very weird, surreal moment where I was like, am I like layered with things? And maybe the answer is yes. I'm not. Check in with me in a year and I'll tell you if that's actually true. But there are 3 pieces. The first one is embrace adversity. And that is very much like tied to the idea of like doing things that are uncomfortable, right? Like going climbing can be uncomfortable, going backcountry skiing can be uncomfortable. For some people, you know, I mean, especially because I'm presuming that we're talking to parts, some of our participants here are, maybe going to be outdoor educators, right? You might be working with people who've never gone hiking before, who've never gone camping before. Maybe that's you, right? Like, I mean, I was not a backcountry skier 6 years ago, and now apparently I'm a professional skier, which is crazy. So anyway, like the idea of doing things that is uncomfortable is not something, like, in the same way we talk about gender norms and like what our society socializes us to do, like in the United States, I mean, in the Western world, like we are socialized to do things that are comfortable, to do things that are easy, right? Like, because it feels good and it's cozy, or it like tastes nice, and like I can buy it for just a couple bucks, and like, why the heck not? But staying in that space of comfort is not something that allows us to grow. And so, by embracing adversity and meeting a challenge head on, just saying like, this is the challenge, I have to make some decisions. Like, do I go ahead? Do I turn back? Do I strategize and figure out how to move sideways or diagonal? Has been something that's definitely saved my life, literally, at least once, and definitely helped me, navigate my way through this weird professional role I'm in as well. The second one is, I think, building resilience, which is directly tied to embracing adversity. And there's this thing of like, okay, well, if you embrace adversity, well, like, just because you're embracing the suck doesn't mean that you're like accepting that you want to grow from it, right? Like, because some of us, like, if you think about like in life, like, unfortunately, like maybe you got fired from a job and you're like, okay, well, I'm very depressed, so I'm going to sit at home and like drink all the time. Or maybe I'm just gonna excessively run. This has not been a personal problem. This is someone else I knew. I never liked running that much. but like we all have like our different coping mechanisms. And so like really sitting down and thinking about like what are the ways that we like cope with adversity, and like healthy or unhealthy, so that we can move with it to grow. And that's building resilience, right? Because that resilience can teach us then to not accept the unacceptable, but recognize, the playing field that we're on, right? And if that's a playing field we want to be on or not. And I mean that like literally, right? In the workplace, in the outdoors, or, in like relationships or friendships or what have you. And then the third one is about community. And, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about being the average of the 5 people with whom you surround yourself, right? Or the 5 beings. You can see my horse friends here in the background of like, who are you surrounding yourself with, right? And like, what are you trying to do in the world? And, like at the time that I took this photo, I was in a space where I was going to the outdoors, and I really, really needed to heal. I had just come out of a really painful and terrible relationship, and I just wanted to go and be in these like big spaces. And I saw these horses. This is not intentional, by the way. This just happened to be my photo. Not planned story at all. But it's working out. So, I remember like being in this space, and these like animals were like running around, and like at the foot of this glacier in Chile, like in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, look at these wild animals just like having a ball. And I was all by myself going on this hike, and I was in a space where I was like, wow, I really, really like to maybe take a cue from them and just like let the things that I was like really letting weigh me down go. And and if I flash forward to now, thinking about like, what does my community look like? Yes, it's still like, I have a little farm out here in Southwest Colorado, and we have some ducks and we have lots of plants. But my community is very much the people with whom I spend time, and the groups with whom I want to share space. And the community ultimately defines or is a manifestation of like what like my values are and how I want to be showing up in the world. Because just like these wild horses, like they're not sitting at home like watching TV and being bummed about life. Like they're just out there living their best horsey lives. And I don't know, I think there's just something just really special to being able to say like, I'm in this space and sometimes it sucks and sometimes it's great, but I'm trying to move through it and open my eyes and look at what's around me. And yeah, communities everywhere, and it's sometimes weirdly enough.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, no, yeah, that was so amazing. Thank you both for sharing. It sounds like a lot of, I think what I like, my understanding is there's so much like self-growth, right? Like and planting that seed, kind of what you were saying about like you can identify and you could like you can know when something is not right, like, or in life, when life throws like events at us or things that we are not sitting well with us, like we can identify, yeah, we don't like it, but it's up to us to do something about it, right? Like we kind of get in this like notion where we just kind of like sit back and hope for the universe to give us a sign when the signs are really right in front of us. And sometimes it even could be just kind of like the simplicity in life, like, you know, kind of like what you were saying, you know, when you had gone through that experience. And thank you so much for sharing that experience with your relationship, that, you know, you're just kind of out there hiking and just even like seeing the simplicity of life. It gave you that, like those messages of like, oh, everything's going to be okay. Like we're going to get through this and we're just going to continue to keep on trucking along, you know? So yeah, I really appreciate the insights. Like that is so amazing, both Kari and Dani. Thank you so much. Like so much knowledge gained, and yeah, super amazing. That is the end of the panel on my end. We're going to turn it over to our audience, and if there's any questions for Kari or Dani for the remainder of our time before we head over to the trivia portion of the festival, you can leave it out in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask them any question you would like.
Can I ask Kari a question? Is that okay? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, definitely.
2020 is the year where we're like, oh, I don't really know if I need to ask permission for this, so I'm just gonna do it. So Kari, you know, I'm really, so you know, everyone knows, well, you know, but so that everyone else knows. I mean, you're just such a, I think like a, to my friend, badass lady out there just doing stuff in the world, and there are so few, I think, women that are vocal about like the work of, you know, being on patrol, being in mountain ops, because it's so easy to fall into that space of, you know, our like, you know, the mountain community or what have you. And I'm curious to know, like, what is it that compelled you to start Women of Patrol, because you haven't really ever talked about that. And I'm just curious to know, like, what compelled you to grab that mic?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the people who are on here who don't know, so I actually just received my employer identification number and articles of incorporation for a nonprofit called Women of Patrol. And so it was it started as just an Instagram, and I was lucky enough my first season of patrol to be one of 3 women on our patrol, and then after that I was the only full-time paid staff that was a female. And so I just thought that was normal, and then I started going to different ski patrol conferences and clinics and realized that that was kind of a norm everywhere. But then when the women who did patrol got together, it was a really powerful experience. We had a really good time, and we were able to share like tricks of the trade and kind of like how we learned to pull toboggans and how we figured things out on our own. And so I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't know exactly how that would look. And so I realized that I didn't have to have it all figured out. It was that, so apply, so do something. And so I was like, well, I'll start an Instagram and get user generated content and see what happens. And if it fails, whatever, I tried something. And if it goes somewhere, great. And I started to connect with women literally all over the world that were ski patrolling. And it was really cool to build that connection. And so then as time progressed, I started to try to focus on where I saw that organization going. And so our branding will hopefully come out like next week, our new branding, and a little more about our nonprofit. I'm building the website right now. So, but yeah, so it just kind of like was building off of everyone else in my community as to why I started that. And now like there's still no end goal. It's just kind of to be dynamic and see where it goes.
Oh, I love that. I have a phrase. I don't know if anyone.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. That just kind of just depicts like kind of like that journey, right? Like that journey that and those steps that you had to take, to get where you're at. And it all just starts by like just seeing what happens, right? And so that's great. We have one question before we end the discussion panel from Jessie. Jessie asked, do you have any recommendations or resources to help women succeed in the outdoor field for like new job settlers, workshops, websites? I guess any resources that you all might like to share? See, Dani had put the Facebook baseball camp group. Base camp group.
Yes. So there's a group called Base Camp in Facebook that has, I don't know, 10,000 people in it. But it's really, really high quality content. Well, actually, sometimes it's not so high quality, but it is generally like pretty good up there about job opportunities, and people announce what they're doing. Yep, there you go. I like that one. Yeah, living in outdoors work. What's the outdoor jobs board, Kari? Do you know what it's called?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look up right now.
I will say while you're looking that up, the Facebook Basecamp group does also have a newsletter that is, I'm pretty sure you can sign up for that newsletter within Basecamp, and they go out weekly. They're really, really good, and they do a roundup of jobs that are hiring in their local region, all across the United States. I have occasionally seen international positions, as well as remote jobs, which is kind of nice. So I would definitely sign up for the newsletter in addition to joining the Facebook group. And the Facebook group that Kari just dropped in, I'll drop the Basecamp one, is different than this other one I'm going to drop right now.
Yeah, and Jessie, I think a big thing for you too is like that the outdoor field in general is really broad. So even just like doing a Google search in terms of the field you're interested in going into, whether that is more that, guiding realm, or if it's going into like the marketing side of the outdoors, or if it's going into more of like a counseling side, or ski industry. And so there's a lot of resources there. Like I'm obviously more familiar with the ski industry. And so like the National Ski Patrol has a women's program. And then Vail Resorts itself has a women's program also of elevating women to leadership positions. And then I can also, if you're interested in more of that leadership role, the leadership course that I'm taking right now, called Peak Leadership. It's through, I'm trying to forget what the name of her organization is, but it's been awesome and great networking. But really in the outdoors, like it's a lot about who you know. And so when you just start to network within your group, you're going to meet those people. And a big thing with that is just like, don't be afraid to reach out and start that conversation with people. And I've noticed like most men and women are super willing to share of how they got into it and kind of the steps you need to take.
Yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. Jessie says she appreciates it, and thank you very much for the resources. Thank you. So that concludes the panel discussion portion for our festival. Again, thank you so much, Kari and Dani, for the very insightful information and knowledge that you shared with us today. Definitely will be taking that with me, and I'm sure everyone who's attending as well will be taking that as well with them. And thank you for being here too. I'm going to go ahead and pass the floor for Joelle and Alexander that will be doing the Kahoot portion of our festival. So you all have the floor.
Awesome, thank you. Good job, you guys, that was awesome.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to share my screen with the passcode on it, and we'll begin our Kahoot.
So this is a Kahoot based on the films. So if you're able to watch the films, you'll do much better. If you feel like guessing, you can play along as well. If you are a top winner and you're a student, there'll be a prize. So if you do win and you're a student, be sure to enter your student ID into the chat. Otherwise, if you're not a student and you don't watch the films yet, you can leave our Zoom, and we'll get started in a little. We'll wait a little time in case people are just joining, so they don't want to miss the first question. But everyone can log in. Sorry to interrupt there, Alex. You might have said that, but I gotta take off. Cool. And as you're in the chat, I also put a link to the film. So if you haven't watched them yet, you could click on that link, enter that password, and watch some pretty cool women adventuring.
So we're gonna just give a few more minutes to allow people to join. So I think we're gonna start now. So is everyone ready?
Dang it, I don't remember.
Looks like Monty's first right now. Oh, now it's Jess.
Ooh, looks like no one got that one.
Yeah.
Okay, Jess is
Nice.
still in the
Jess
lead.
is still first. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
Almost a tie. Oh, Monty is second now, but Jess is still first. She's on fire. 3 correct answers in a row. Nice, nice. It doesn't look like anyone got that one, but Jess is still first.
Okay, Monte took over second place.
Oh, didn't watch films goes back up. Okay. Okay, I think there's one more question, right? The last question. All right, let's see what
Yep.
happens.
Okay, let's see the final placements. Third place, did not watch films. Monte came in second place. And in first place, we have Jess. Congratulations.
Let's go.
Yay!
Good job, you guys. If the 3 winners can send me privately or in the chat to everybody their student ID, that would be great. Either or, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Well, I think that.
Sorry
Yes, so
about that. I
please
lost
send
power.
her
Oh.
your student ID number.
Yeah, you'll message Joelle your student ID, and you'll be receiving some emails with some gift certificates. So thanks for playing, and there's still time to watch the films. Looks like some of you might need to rewatch a couple of them, but yeah, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks, Eden and Women's Resource Center for collaborating with us on this event, and it was great from Kari and Dani. We appreciated their insights and knowledge and experience, and definitely their passion for adventure in the outdoors. All right, does anyone have any questions?
Yes, thank you so much as well yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Mark and CSUSB Adventure as well for holding on this event. And I hope everyone gained some insight. I for sure did, and different perspectives as well that I'm going to be taking with me. I hope everyone has a great night, or if anyone has any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to share. Thank you all so much.
There's one more person, I believe, who didn't submit their student ID to the chat to me privately.
Yeah, and they might not be a student. I guess that could be
okay.
A case too. And there is a question in the chat about what we can expect next year from Outdoor Adventures. So you know, check out our website, follow us on Instagram. We are doing things, virtual tours and informational sessions, and we have a new section of our website called Adventure Deals. So although we're not able to lead trips at this moment, we will be having deals on if you have your own transportation or are okay with public transportation, you know, free lift tickets, free kayak rentals, or extremely discounted kayak rentals, bike rentals. As the snow comes, we plan to do some learn to ski programs or learn to snowboard programs, maybe learn to surf, whale watching. So we will be doing stuff virtually, but we'll also be supporting your personal adventures, you know, out there in the go camping, go snorkeling, go kayaking or surfing. So lots going on, and as things change and we come up with new ideas, the best way is just to follow us or check out our website for what's coming up. Cool. And then Women's Resource Center, I know you got lots going on too, and Jacob put a link in there to the Native American Heritage Month programs. But yeah, the best thing, you know, follow us, check out our website if you're looking for, you know, great programming, what's going on. You know, we don't have flyers and we're not seeing everybody on campus. So we just kind of need to visit our websites and, you know, email us if you have any questions. All right, well, I guess we'll end it there. And, you know, I know I have a couple more films to watch, and hopefully next year we'll have the same festival and we could gather together in person and do some other fun events along with watching the great films together. All right, have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for attending, everybody. Have a good night. Be safe out there.
All right. Thanks, Joelle. Thanks, Alex. Good job putting it all together.